Today, we're going to talk about a life form that is so incredibly tough, it is forcing us to rethink our entire game plan for exploring other worlds. Yeah, I'm talking about a tiny, microscopic stowaway that could either totally wreck our search for alien life on Mars, or, and this is the twist, it could become the absolute key to our survival there. Look, we're going to Mars. That part seems pretty certain. We're building the rockets, we're planning the missions. But there is this huge, nagging question we have to answer. How do we explore the red planet without accidentally contaminating it with life from Earth? And that, my friends, is a massive challenge, thanks in large part to one particularly stubborn microbe.
So let's meet our main character, Bacillus subtilis. You probably run into it a million times and never even known it. It's a super common soil bacterium. But here's the thing, when the going gets tough, it transforms itself into a spore. Think of it like a microscopic survival pod. And this dormant form? It's one of the toughest things nature has ever cooked up, which makes it a huge concern for what we call planetary protection.
Right, so the biggest question scientists had to get to the bottom of was, could this little stowaway actually survive on the surface of Mars? I mean, the conditions there are just brutal. We're talking freezing cold temperatures, a super thin atmosphere, and a constant blast of harsh radiation. So to figure this out, researchers at the German Aerospace Center did the next best thing to actually sending these microbes to Mars. They brought Mars to the microbes. They built this really sophisticated Mars simulation chamber, which is basically, you guessed it, Mars in a jar. It perfectly copied the pressure, the temperature, the gas mix, and, this is the most important part, the intense radiation of a day on Mars. The whole experiment really boiled down to one key test, with two different setups. In the first one, the spores got blasted with the full, unfiltered power of simulated Martian UV radiation. In the second setup, another batch of spores got the exact same Mars treatment, except the UV rays were blocked. This was meant to simulate them being shielded by, say, a thin layer of dust or hiding out in a tiny crack on a rover. The results all hinged on one question. Just how deadly is that UV light really? And here you go. These are the results shown in a heat map from the study. Now, don't worry about all the tiny labels, just focus on the colors. The column on the left, that's what happened when the spores got hit with Martian UV light. See all those dark colors, the deep oranges and browns? That means the spores died. The UV radiation was just incredibly deadly. Now, look at the column on the right. This is what happened when the UV was blocked. The colors are so much lighter, which means, you got it, the spores survived. It's a night and day difference. As the researchers put it, the difference was, well, significant. The takeaway here is crystal clear. If a B. subtilis spore can find even the tiniest bit of shade, we're talking under a single grain of dust, or in a microscopic crack on a lander's wheel, its chances of survival just skyrocket. It could potentially just hang out dormant for a very, very long time.
Which of course leads to the next question. How? How does it do it? How can any living thing survive that kind of onslaught? Well, turns out the Bacillus subtilis spore comes with an absolutely incredible built-in survival kit. I mean, when you look at a cross-section of one of these spores, you can see it's not just some simple little cell. It's a fortress. It's built with all these different layers designed to protect its most precious cargo, its DNA.
The defense system starts from the outside and works its way in. First up, you've got the crust, and then a thick protein coat. You can think of this like layers of body armor, physically blocking nasty chemicals and absorbing some of that damaging UV radiation. And then underneath that is the cortex. It's a really unique layer that plays a vital role in keeping the spore's core almost completely dry. And that dryness, that's key.
Because inside the core is where the real magic happens. By getting rid of almost all the water, the spore basically puts itself into suspended animation. Then, these special proteins called SAPs swarm the DNA, physically latching onto it, kind of like bubble wrap, to shield it from getting damaged. And finally, a chemical called dipicolinic acid, or DPA, comes in to further stabilize the DNA and lock the spore in that dormant, super protected state.
So let's recap. You've got armor, dehydration, and a DNA protection system all wrapped into one tiny package. This incredible combination is exactly why space agencies are so worried about it. An accidental spill of these spores on Mars could give us a false positive in our search for life, and that would confuse the science, maybe forever.
But what if I told you that is only half the story? What if this microbe's greatest strength, its incredible resilience, could be turned from a massive problem into an elegant solution?
So far, we've only seen B. subtilis as a threat, right? A contaminant that we have to get rid of at all costs. But there's a completely different field of research that's looking at this exact same organism, and they're seeing something else entirely. They're seeing a potential ally for our astronauts.
See, on a multi-year mission to Mars, you can't just pack all your food. It's too heavy, too much space. The plan is to grow food in greenhouses. But there's a catch. A diet that's purely plant-based might not give you every single vitamin and micronutrient that humans need to stay healthy. This creates a really dangerous nutritional gap.
So how do you fill that gap when you're millions of miles away from Earth? Well, you could pack vitamins, but they break down over time. The really cool, innovative solution scientists are looking at is to bring a living vitamin factory. You need an organism that's incredibly tough, super low maintenance, and can produce what you need. Sound familiar?
And this is where our little stowaway gets a brand new job description. It turns out that B. subtilis is a natural producer of riboflavin, which you might know as vitamin B2, one of those key micronutrients. And suddenly, its incredible toughness becomes its greatest asset. It doesn't need perfect, pristine conditions to grow, and some researchers even think it could be cultivated using processed Martian soil, or regolith.
This just completely reframes the entire conversation. The very same organism that we're terrified might contaminate Mars could be the exact thing we need to farm on Mars.
It paints this incredible picture of a future Martian base that looks a little different than we might imagine. Of course, you've got the greenhouses for growing plants, but right next to them, you have these bioreactors, bubbling away with carefully chosen microbes like B. subtilis, all working together to create a complete, sustainable, closed-loop food system.
And so we land on this absolutely fascinating paradox. We have to go to incredible lengths to make sure Bacillus subtilis doesn't accidentally hitch a ride to Mars on our rovers. And yet, the moment humans get there, it might be one of the very first life forms we intentionally bring with us, cultivating it as an essential partner for our survival.
It's just a powerful reminder that in this grand challenge of exploring space, the line between a dangerous contaminant and an indispensable ally might just be a matter of perspective. It really makes you wonder, what other secrets does the smallest life on our planet hold for our future out there among the stars?